Hi, I'm Giri Prakash from the Federal. Today we are going to hold a panel discussion on the union budget announcements in the morning. Uh, Welcome to each of the participants. Welcome to Mr. Prakash, Mr. Aman, and Mr. Ketan. Thank you very much for participating in this panel discussion. Let me give a brief introduction about each one of you to the audience. Mr. Akshat Ketan is the founder of AU Corporate Advisory and Legal Services. Mr. Prakash Balasubramaniam is Executive Vice President, Engineering Services, SNDON. And Mr. Amal Dhal is an angel investor and one of the investors in Policy Bazaar. Welcome to each one of you.
Great to be
What
here.
I will do
Thank
now,
you.
thank you very much. What I will do now is that I'll throw open the question about a brief take on what do you think about the budget, and then we can get into the specific aspects of the budget. We'll start with Mr. Dhal.
I think overall, if you look at the budget, um, every year middle class awaits अच्छे दिन कब आएंगे. I think this was a budget where uh, government surprised us uh, in the sense, it gave wholeheartedly a tax exemption, where a person earning little over a lakh doesn't need to pay any kind of taxes. So it's great, uh, I think, boost to the middle class overall. I would say from a consumer and a salaried class perspective. So I would say what it means for stock market, what it means for the economy. Obviously, everyone has their calculators out, analyzing. Everyone is looking right now at the fine print. Obviously, there are riders also in terms of what does this exemption mean and who are the people who are eligible for, because there is also a if you will see, there was also an announcement where they said people who are earning above 4 lakh, they need to pay 5% to this bracket. So there are riders to it. It's not like everyone who is earning a lakh gets this exemption. So interesting one, I would say. And I think if this is a budget which is somewhere right now to big, like initial thoughts, a dream budget for middle class. Let's see, what it entails over the next few days as everyone kind of goes through the fine print.
Thank you, Mr. Dhal. Mr. Venkat Subramaniam, please share your thoughts on the budget. Mr. Balasubramaniam,
Okay, sorry, I
yeah,
was
yeah,
wondering.
yeah.
I hope
Okay.
budget didn't change my name, but no problem. Very good. Super excited to be here, Mr. Giri. Like Mr. Aman said, I think this has been a very good budget for the middle class people. I was eagerly observing this, but also a person who spent a lot of time in the IT sector and the businesses that IT sector serves. I'm pretty excited to see the balance across the domains we serve, like healthcare, agriculture, education, travel, tourism, and things like that. So I find a very good coverage for the ecosystem that we build software for. What is also good is there's a lot of good benefits for the ecosystem where we get talent pool from the ecosystem that we work with. So, like colleges, startups, also the infrastructure needed to develop software and so on. So, personally, pretty happy for the early views that I have. Obviously, I'll spend the next day or two to assimilate this a little better.
Thank you, Mr. Balasubramanian. Mr. Ketan, your views on the budget today.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Giri and my co-panelist. I feel that this budget, although has been very inclusive, but it has been very realistic also. If we analyze what the Honorable Finance Minister was speaking, she was very careful with her words with regards to where the government is going to facilitate, where the government is going to infuse, where the government is going to have states involvement, where so the entire body language has evolved, and that evolution is of taking everyone together, the narrative of taking everyone together, which fits their first bill, that is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas. Having seen every sector and everybody has something for it in the budget. Now, it's not going to be a free walk. It's not going to be a easy cake walk that it's an era where just freebies and subsidies are given. There will be initial impetus given by the government, but yes, every sector constituent will have to work hard to garner it for themselves. Speaking on the middle class and personal income tax, etc., 12 lakhs is a good exemption, but we also have to see that how the middle class has evolved. Does today's India only consider a person earning 12 lakh of monthly annual income as middle class? And what else are, or what more the middle class had an expectation from the union budget? So for a narrative, yes, it makes the Aam Aadmi the Khas Aadmi. It talks about inclusive development, but it is populistly very prudent and politically correct, because Assam, Bihar, we saw the number of mentions Bihar had, the number of mentions Assam had. Two good, very brief takeaways in my opening remarks is one is use of nuclear energy for civil supplies, and for amendments in the nuclear treaty, whereby it was totally prohibited. So that is a big change came around for the power sector, and also on the taxation front, where multiplicity of application of TDS and TCS are being separated and waived. So in a way, it's a good budget, but it's the first starting step towards a Swarnim Viksit Bharat.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Mr. Ketan. Mr. Dhal, you have been an angel investor. Whole lot of takeaways in the budget for the startups. There's a funds of funds as well. How do you look at the scenario?
See, if you look at
Um,
again, the kind of announcement that have been made, there are some loans and grants being made available. Am I there? Or did I lose you
yeah,
for a
yeah,
bit?
yeah.
Hello.
But
So I was saying that if you look at the announcements, which were kind of a combination of announcements for the MSMEs and the startups, there is also kind of announcement around the how government is trying to promote more innovation thinking through Atal tinkering labs, especially in the schools. So we're trying to create that startup culture very young, and there is much more investment going there. Uh, but again, if you look at a couple of things which I was trying to highlight pre-budget, uh, the whole the idea of startup was tax benefits. And right now, if you look at the numbers, uh, there are around 1,60,000 startups. Uh, and according to a parliamentary committee report, only 1% startups have actually get the 80 IAC certificate. Now, what does it mean? 99% of the startups are being taxed as normal companies. So what I feel is, what the grants, the loans, plus the fund of funds announcement is great, but also I think the real tax benefits need to be become more transparent, simplified, and this might not happen. This might not have happened in the budget, but I'm expecting some kind of more clarification, some revisions there over the next couple of months. Uh, so yeah, I would say that from a fine print perspective, great, more money, more funds coming to startups. Also getting them young into the startup thinking. But I would say more work needs to be done from a policy framework perspective to ensure those grants, those benefits are actually reaching the real beneficiaries.
yeah, okay. Mr. Balasubramanian, how do you, I mean, first of all, I mean, you have been in the IT sector, and how do you look at the overall, and there are some announcements regarding AI as well. And of course, I would like to ask you the same question regarding startups as well. And has there been any emphasis or any focus on engineering services as well? Could you please give your viewpoints on
Absolutely.
that?
Yeah, fantastic. I think we are at a inflection point with AI, right? There's a lot of proliferation of AI, but there's a very unique opportunity. See, India has been very focused on creating software for the world, right? We take a technology that was probably created, and then we assimilate it, and then we create software. So we are serving the world. I think it's a good opportunity to think about AI for Bharat and Bharat for AI, right? Now, can we create AI for the world, right? See, there's a lot of things on open AI being created, countries like US and now China with DeepSeek. Is it time for something big to emerge out of India in the AI space? I think the opportunity is there. And I think there are some elements of the budget that are very, very encouraging, right? So one is this whole what do you call the deep tech fund for young startups who are innovating. I think, see, if you look at India, AI solutions are created in many places. Startups is one. Even educational institutions like IIT or other engineering colleges create a lot of AI solutions. Companies like us who are pure play in the engineering services create AI, and big firms, even GCCs create. So I could see a lot of benefits for all of this sector. So there's startup incubation fund, the whole what do you call the deep tech fund. There's focus on education to innovate, right? The whole the Atal Tinkering Lab is very unique, right? First of its kind, which is encouraging. Companies like us can actually partner with education that way. What I also saw that was interesting is there's a focus on GCCs being set up in tier two cities, because there's a lot
Yeah.
of GCCs in Chennai, Bangalore, NCR area. Tier two is a good opportunity, right? And even in our state, probably why not more in Coimbatore or Madurai or Trichy and so on, right? I think it opens the door. So personally, I'm very excited. Creation of AI in Bharat, which we can push to the world, right? And creation of AI for Bharat also. That's the second part I wanted to talk about. What about
Mhm.
AI for India? Why
Mhm.
why do we need to consume AI coming from the world? That's one part. What about very native, localized large language models which are catering to health in India, education in India? See, we have a lot of complexities, language complexities, and so on. Probably it's time for us to create AI for Bharat and Bharat for AI to the world. So I'm very excited from the AI front. Of course, I have a few other points on technology as well, but maybe I'll take those questions subsequently.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ketan, one thing I noticed was that, and I want you to decipher for the audience regarding the FDI and insurance. It's been raised from 74% to 100%, but the entire premium should be invested back in India. Could you tell us exactly what it means? And of course, there are other questions as well on tax proposals.
So to understand this, first we need to understand that the what is the mindset of the government. From a government which is keeping its target tight on 4.4% of fiscal deficit,
Hmm.
how it is modulating itself is not by additional borrowing, is not by having a ideology and mentorship towards getting funds, but partnering and getting investments to India for India. The finance minister very clearly articulated today, first make for India and then make for the world. So the point is that the point that they are trying to make is very clear, that now we have to run our economy in order to take the next leap of being a developed nation is on an investment model. So while we are allowing FDI to 100%, and while we are allowing giving you tax incentives, while we are giving you tax holidays, that is only applicable if you make our own country strong. And indirectly, this push of getting this invested within India is going to have so much of peripheral generation of jobs, which is one of the largest concern today every Indian has. And jobs, not only jobs in per se, but skillful jobs.
Hmm.
If you see the
Yeah.
selection of words that have been done, they have been very matured enough to have the underlying concern addressed with the problem and giving a proper solution.
Okay. Okay. Do
So
you
we are
think?
going to
Yeah.
see a big influx of equity in these segments in the coming
Mhm.
months.
Okay. Okay. Do you think that more banking reforms could have been carried out or announced during this budget because of the fact that we are into the first year of the new government and there are 4 more years, and if in case there is a revenue loss or in case there are certain disruptions, they could have bridged that gap within the next 4 years, made course corrections. So therefore, this budget is quite crucial that way.
The banking norms are regulated by Reserve Bank of India. If you see the fifth engine that the finance minister was talking was about the regulatory reforms. They have already proposed to form a high power committee for regulatory reforms. Now we expect that in such committee, under the head of regulatory reforms, these relaxations that the bankers need to get rid of their asset liability mismatch, to get rid of their problems of meeting the capital adequacy, and to get rid of the compliance problems and be a global banker, providing ease of banking, ease of doing business, and also securing their lended credit is going to come. So, the quantum of mention in the budget might be less, but it is not that the government is non cognizant or ignorant about the same.
Okay, okay. Mr. Dhal, you did point out about, last year the angel tax was removed, and this year there are several incentives and all that. But one finds out that most of these incentives for the startups doesn't really, you know, they really don't benefit at the end of the day. What are the measures do you think could have been done to achieve something like that? There's always a bit of a suspicion regarding where the money is coming from for startups and whether they actually get utilized for the kind of projects that they raise it for. And so, of course, there is this also about how there is one provision in the budget with regard to mergers as well, so that there is easier way of merging, and then and a whole host of other measures as well. But considering the fact that how, in the backdrop of Baiju, for example, right, and how it led to a situation where quite a few investors have lost a lot of money and they're still struggling to get whatever money they could get. Uh, do you think the government could have done certain things to ensure, A, that whoever invests in startups in India have some amount of hedge, B, that these kind of situations don't really end up? I'm not talking of Baiju in particular, but generally.
So I would just say, Giri, great question. Uh, Hazaro khwaishein aisi. So in the sense, it's a big country. There are a lot of problems to solve, and I would say, you know, a government can do so much. Also, we need to understand the startup industry is really 15-year old. You know, if you will see the young wave of startups, which really started doing well, were born in 2008. The Zomatos, the Policy Bazaars, etc., etc. They got listed in around 2021. Usually there is a cycle of 7 to 10 years. It took them almost 14 years to get a listing, which meant an exit for investors. So I think our startup ecosystem is still very young. Uh, if you look at the country is what, 1947. We are like 75 plus years old. So it took us a lot of time to even like come to uh, the new LPG policy came in what, 1990. So from that perspective, I think government is doing a great job in solving problems. Uh, the technology is moving very fast. ITS sector is moving very fast. Skills are changing. So government is also trying to tackle. And if you look at the economic survey also, I think there were a huge number of pages on AI. They know that it's coming, and it is coming very fast. And they talk about the same, the implications of the same on the manufacturing sector. They have put notes on the same. And similarly, if you look at uh, today's budget, day next, there is a talk about deep tech fund. So
Yeah.
obviously they are looking at things, they are assessing, they are trying to problem solve. For startups also, when you are trying to disrupt, you don't know in the sense how things will shape up. So I would say when newer things come, newer problems come, but also growth comes. So all these things are very normal things.
Okay. Okay.
So I
All
would
right.
say government is doing a great job and what they have
Okay.
done. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm just, yeah,
Sure. Sure.
just
No
just a
problem.
sec. I'll just
Yeah.
pass
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Balasubramanian, one of the oft-repeated themes is that one of the reasons why India is so strong in IT services is because the government did not interfere at all, right? And considering that fact, do you think it's time that there were some incentives for the IT sector? You did talk about certain funds for research and innovation. Do you think did you think that this is not this is a bit little and not more, and we need to really re-energize our own universities so that real good research work takes place, which is not happening as of now for various reasons. But if there's a more focused kind of programs or projects, it could actually they could actually achieve that.
Yeah, I think if I step back, one of the early reasons why IT flourished was, I mean, it's easy to say government did not interfere, but do not forget a lot of sops given, the special economic zones that promoted export of IT, right? That's where the big IT companies flourished, SEEPs in Mumbai or MEPS in India. I mean, you can see a flourishing of IT. The entire IT corridor right here in Chennai, you have all the SEC benefits and so on. So I think the government did what was needed to jumpstart IT. The thing with IT is it moves very fast. Like Mr. Aman said, there's so much going on in the country that sometimes it's very hard to keep pace with. But I think the government is doing the basics right in terms of giving SOPs, encouraging, and so on. You're right with respect to IT. If you look at various phases of evolution of Indian IT, education also has evolved, but probably they've been playing catch up, right? So,
Mhm.
I mean, I did a lot of engineering in the early 90s. At that time, there was a lot of focus on electronics, computer science, and so on. But very quickly, when the Y2K problem hit, the focus on engineering was to create mass education, to get people into computer science, to get people into electronics, and so on. So IT caught up very well. That's why there were so many engineering colleges. They were supplying skilled IT labor for IT services companies and so on. And then the real innovation was happening from a few colleges or few universities that were very self-motivated. I think now is the time, especially with a mega trend like AI, a mega trend around the whole fintech, edutech, health tech, right? There's a lot of X tech, if you will. There's a great opportunity for universities to start innovating, very focused on creating, skill for serving these, I would say, domains, if you will, not just focusing on creating engineers who can join IT services and serve the world, but also create domain specific technology capabilities. And hence, colleges, I feel, have to not start catching up but actually lead the way, right? Can they
Mhm.
start looking at what are the technologies of the future? Now IT is in its early stage. Now can we start looking at what will be AI in the next 5 years, what is quantum in the next 5 years? And if a large amount of educational institutions can focus on those areas versus just an IIT or some premium institutes, then the educational institutes can stop playing catch up but actually lead the way, right? I think that's the real opportunity. And I feel some of these incubation funds, research funds will be very helpful. But I think there's a lot that can happen. But for that, the educational industry has to represent itself too, right? They have to go and ask for, I want to shift from being a fast follower to a leader, right? I think
Mhm.
there's a lot that can be done, Mr. Giri.
One thing that I found out, I haven't seen the fine print yet, but the budget for the education keeps on shrinking. and that's one of the areas that should actually the budget should actually increase over a period of time.
I think
The
so.
other thing for example, this may be what you call as an out of syllabus kind of question, or rather out of union budget kind of question. But the national education policy, for example, do you think it bridges the gap when it comes to skill sets needed for students to get into a job immediately? There is a bit of a gap there. There's a huge gap there.
Yeah.
It's not skill based at all, and that could be one of the reasons why there are a lot of job seekers, but you really can't find a bunch of ideal ones who can actually immediately join. Do
Yeah.
you think this budget could have addressed that gap?
I have to look for if there is something in the budget that addresses the gap. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
pretty encouraged about the grassroots level encouragement on research and so on. But I think what is really needed is to relook at the syllabus in all educational institutions, because I feel again they've been incrementally growing. I think they are doing a good job, but maybe it's high time to invest on fundamentally relooking at the syllabus and stop playing catch up, but transform the syllabus, if you will, right? And quite often I see computer science in school still carrying something that's 10 years old, right? Whereas computer science is the fastest evolving, right? It's hard to keep pace. So I think if the government can do something about pause, completely reassess and do some big changes, that'll be good. But it's hard for me to
Mhm.
comment because there's so much that the government keeps focusing on. And
Yeah.
maybe industries can participate. Maybe a lot of industries can participate and help the government too. Maybe there's a collaboration that can be set up.
Okay. Okay. I'll
Giri,
take
I'll
this.
add here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please
I'd
go
like
ahead.
to add here, Giri.
Yeah.
See, what
Yeah.
is happening, it also depends on execution on the ground. I feel
Mm.
there have been always budget allocated to the
Yeah.
education sector, and depends on what the industry does with that particular budget.
Mm.
So, when you say that why while there are jobs, while obviously there are a lot of students who are doing these degrees, yet they're not finding jobs. So somewhere also, I feel it's the twin responsibility of the student as well as of the education industry, that they are imparting the right skill set. And what I'm seeing as a big trend is that uh, the companies in itself are now trying to train and hire. So what they're doing is they're setting up their own kind of training schools, which kind of trains them to the skills they desire, and they're investing a little part of their budgets, companies, in kind of starting a school, X school or a Y school, with the brand name of the company. And this is what I see a larger trend happening. Everyone is looking at the landscape in their own way. Everyone wants skill set in a certain way, and they're trying to
Mhm.
curate their own program. I feel education industry needs to do more deep introspection within themselves, where they are going wrong in terms
Yeah.
of where they're not able
Yeah.
to produce the right skill set for the industry.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah. 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 Mr. Ketan, I'm going to again touch upon the last year's budget announcement. The economic survey as well as the finance minister made it very clear that if the jobs have to be created, it has to be created by the corporate sector. And then they rolled out this plan of internship, around 4,000 interns per corporate. No mention was made about whether it was not even the economic survey, whether it was a success and how many, what exactly happened there. Could you throw some light on where will the jobs come as far as the corporate sector is concerned?
So, as far as the present scenario for jobs is concerned, let me be very candid in saying that it's pathetic. There is a problem of employed and unemployable, and
Mhm.
the need and greed for getting employed. Now, what the government has done very tactfully, it has provided a platform and an avenue, but there is no direct incentive for employment or for uh, the right kind of job. There is a platform now. on one hand, the government has spoken that government has got no business to be in business,
Yeah.
but yet we see that it has got a lot of business. So on the question of unemployment and on the question of job security, job increment, there is a disappointment. The budget could have been more focused on building and creating new jobs and having, as government has very categorically classified various stratas within the budget document for different sectors, having some classification or having some provision for new jobs, for job security, which is totally missing. So yes, on that count, I personally feel that we have missed the boat. But this is an budget is just an income expenditure statement, and in coming months we should not be totally assuming that in the era of collaboration in technology, one document is going to run only for 1 year and nothing is going to happen inter-year. It's time. And one thing is also very good, Giri, that every Indian today realizes that it is not government's responsibility. It is our responsibility to join hands with the government and to do X, Y, and Z. So that feeling itself is very important, where it's going to have a big boost in the economy, which can only happen by way of job creation and empowering the youth.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I conclude, I would go for another round, and this time I'm going to flip the question, and it's about uh, what are the three things do you think the government could have done in the union budget? I'll start off with Mr. Kal.